Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to kick off today's presentation on political science. This is our first slide, so I just want to warmly welcome you all and introduce the topic. Today, we'll explore the fascinating world of political science, looking at its core concepts, key theories, and how it impacts our society. We'll cover the basics and some interesting insights along the way. Let's get started. Let's now look at the conclusion of our discussion. We are witnessing changing dynamics in both the meaning and the nature of political science. Over time, our understanding of what political science entails has evolved significantly. It's important to recognize the difference between theoretical politics, which focuses on the development of ideas and concepts, and applied politics, which involves practical application in real-world governance and policy-making. When we talk about the definitions of political science, they have expanded to encompass a broader understanding of power, authority, and governance. This new perspective on political science helps us see it not just as a study of government institutions, but as a discipline that includes social, economic, and cultural factors influencing politics. Understanding the nature of political science now involves appreciating its interdisciplinary approach and its relevance to contemporary issues. Also, it's crucial to distinguish between politics and political science, politics being the activity of decision-making, and political science being the academic study of that activity. Throughout this presentation, we've explored these key points to deepen our understanding of how political science is continuously evolving, reflecting changes in society and governance. This ongoing transformation underscores the importance of staying adaptable and open-minded as we study and apply political concepts. Political science is the study of the state, government, and institutions, as well as associations, individual rights, and freedoms. It also explores the relationship between the individual and the state or government, along with international politics and various issues. Essentially, it covers everything within the geographical limits of a state and what the government regulations govern. It's also interested in the political behavior of individuals, understanding why people act the way they do in political contexts. Now, moving to the origins of the term politics, the great Greek philosopher Aristotle was the first to use it, which is why he's often called the father of political science. In his famous work, Politics, Aristotle emphasized that man is by nature a political animal. He believed that anyone who is without a state, by nature and not just by accident, is either above humanity or below it, highlighting how central the state is to human life. The word political comes from politics, which itself is derived from the Greek word polis, meaning city-state. This was a form of political organization in ancient Greece, and it laid the foundation for modern political science. The word science refers to the systematic study of the natural and physical world through observation, evidence, and experimentation. So, when we talk about political science, we're referring to a branch of knowledge that systematically studies how the state and political institutions are structured and how they behave, all through scientific analysis. It's an organized approach to understanding the complexities of political life, both within a specific country and in the international arena. When we talk about political science, it's often said that it begins and ends with the state. Dr. Garner emphasizes this by highlighting the central role the state plays in the discipline. Essentially, political science is focused on understanding the state, its structure, functions, and the principles that underpin it. Paul Janet adds that political science is part of the social sciences, and it specifically deals with the foundations of the state and the principles of government. This means we're examining how states are formed, how they operate, and what ideas guide their functioning. This slide introduces the traditional view of political science, which is to explore these core aspects of the state and governance. Recognizing these definitions helps us see how the discipline is rooted in understanding power, authority, and the organization of society. Overall, these points set the stage for our broader discussion of how political science analyzes the structures and principles that shape political life. It's about understanding the core elements that make up political systems and how they influence us all. So on this slide, we see that politics can be understood as an activity through which people create, maintain, and modify the rules that govern their lives. Andrew Haywood defines politics as the process of making, preserving, and changing the general rules under which society operates. It's about how we organize ourselves and manage collective decisions. Moving on, political science is described as the study of human and social control. Basically, how power and influence shape our societies. Catlin highlights that politics involves the authoritative allocation of values, meaning it's about deciding what is important and how resources or benefits are distributed. David Easton adds that politics is the study of influence and those who hold influence, so understanding how power is exercised and shared. Harold Lasswell emphasizes that politics is about influence itself, how influence is gained and used to shape decisions. At the start of the 20th century, a new approach emerged called the behavioral approach. This view treats politics as a dynamic activity and process, focusing on observable behaviors and interactions rather than just institutions or ideologies. It marked a shift toward studying politics as something people do, rather than just what governments are. Stephen Leacock summed it up by saying political science deals with the government, highlighting the focus on governance and political institutions. Sir John Seeley pointed out that political science investigates government phenomena just as other fields study their respective subjects: wealth, life, numbers, or space. In essence, modern political science aims to understand the complex activity of governing, influence, and decision-making in society, connecting all these ideas into a comprehensive study of how power is exercised and maintained. Now, moving on to slide 6 of 14, let's explore how modern writers differentiate between politics and political science. Frederick Pollock was quite influential here. He was the first to divide the subject into two distinct parts. On one hand, we have theoretical politics, which deals with the ideas, principles, and philosophies behind political systems. On the other hand, practical or applied politics focuses on how these ideas are implemented and practiced in real-world situations. Recognizing this distinction helps us understand that politics isn't just about power and governance, but also involves studying the underlying theories and how they translate into actual policies and actions. This separation is fundamental to grasping the full scope of political studies and how they relate to the functioning of society. It's an important step in clarifying the overall theme of understanding political dynamics more comprehensively. Now, moving on to the second part of our discussion, we focus on the study of the actual state and forms of government, political action, and elections. Here, we look at how politics operates in real life, with politicians actively participating in governance. These politicians form political parties, contest elections, run the government, and handle the administration of the state. This practical aspect of politics is known as applied or practical polity, and it's all about understanding the actual working of government in action. On the other hand, the first part of our study covers the foundational theories, things like the theory of the state and government, the theory of legislation, and the idea of the state as an artificial person. These subjects explore the features of the state and the core principles that underpin governance. However, they don't delve into how governments actually operate. They're more about understanding the basic concepts and characteristics that define a state. A key point to remember is the difference between theoretical politics and applied politics. Theoretical politics is about the ideas, the principles, the concepts, the ideals. It asks questions like, what should the state be like? What are the essential features of a good government? Meanwhile, applied politics is about the practical side, how these ideas are put into action, how politicians actually influence government policies, and how elections shape the political landscape. This distinction helps us see the full picture of political science. It's not just about abstract principles, but also about real-world activities and outcomes. Both aspects are crucial for a comprehensive understanding of politics, especially as we aim to see how theory translates into practice in the governance of a state. Political science is a part of social sciences, and because of that, it differs quite a bit from physical sciences like physics and chemistry. Unlike those natural sciences, which focus on the physical universe, political science deals with human behavior, institutions, and social processes. A key question we often ask is whether political science is a science or an art. Some argue it's a science because it involves systematic study, analysis, and the use of scientific methods. Others see it as an art because it also requires skills like persuasion, negotiation, and understanding human nature, which are more subjective. Throughout the 20th century, the nature of political science has undergone significant changes. It has shifted from a mainly descriptive discipline to a more analytical and empirical one, emphasizing research and evidence-based conclusions. This evolution reflects the broader trend of applying scientific approaches to social phenomena, aiming for greater objectivity and rigor. But at the same time, it retains elements of an art, like interpreting complex human motivations and political values. So, understanding the nature of political science helps us appreciate its unique position. It's a discipline that combines scientific inquiry with a nuanced understanding of human behavior, which makes it both a science and an art. Science is often seen as a universal and systematic body of knowledge. It relies on accurate and impartial facts, which allow us to observe, compare, and experiment. These are the core features that make science reliable and objective. However, when we turn to political science, things become a bit more complicated. Political science doesn't always exhibit these same features. It's more challenging to pin down in terms of pure objectivity and systematic methods. Because of this, some prominent thinkers like Ernest Barker, James Bryce, and Charles A. Beard, who were all influential in their fields, were hesitant to fully accept political science as a true science. They viewed it more as an art, emphasizing the interpretative and subjective aspects involved in understanding politics. This distinction highlights an important theme in our discussion. While political science shares some scientific traits, it also incorporates elements that make it unique, elements that lean more toward art than strict science. Now, let's consider some of the key challenges we face when trying to experiment in political science to reach valid conclusions. One major issue is the incredible diversity of environments in which political developments occur. Different societies, cultures, and historical contexts all influence political outcomes, making it difficult to generalize findings. Another challenge is the inherent complexity of political phenomena. This complexity arises from the variation in people's nature and habits, which means that human behavior can be unpredictable and varied, adding layers of difficulty to any experimental approach. Additionally, we often encounter a lack of precise and standardized definitions of terms and concepts. Without clear definitions, it becomes challenging to measure or compare political variables accurately, which hampers the scientific rigor of our studies. All these factors contribute to the broader debate about whether political science can truly be considered a rigorous science. Some argue that political science is more of an art that requires intuition, interpretation, and understanding of human behavior, rather than a strict science based solely on empirical experiments. This slide highlights these difficulties, reminding us that while political science strives for scientific rigor, it also has unique complexities that set it apart from the natural sciences. The government itself is a continuous experiment. Whenever students of political science test their theories against the data of experience through observation, that process can be regarded as scientific. But when this analysis is applied to the functioning of political institutions, it becomes more like an art. So, political science is both a science and an art. American political scientist Robert Dahl emphasizes that political science is not like the physical sciences, it's a social science. He also points out that it is both a science and an art. Science because it involves systematic study, and art because it involves the practical application of that knowledge to create a better social and political order. Theories in political science are not just based on speculation. Today, political scientists use survey methods, graphs, charts, and other scientific tools to reach their conclusions. This scientific approach allows us to make informed predictions, though they are not always certain. Political experiments are still possible, and to some extent, we can predict political outcomes based on social experimentation. For example, we understand that an independent, impartial judiciary and a free press are essential for a healthy democracy. Empirical studies, which are grounded in careful observation and classification, form the backbone of political science. We test hypotheses or assumptions through empirical verification to ensure their accuracy. Recently, political theory has advanced significantly, using facts and verifiable data, such as voting behavior and election theories, to develop more reliable insights. Looking back, thinkers like David Easton aimed to establish a scientific foundation for political science, and Aristotle called it a master science that could help save civilization. In summary, these points support the idea that political science is a true science, an ongoing, rigorous pursuit of understanding, grounded in evidence and practical application. After World War II, we see a significant transformation in the meaning and nature of political science. It's no longer just about studying government institutions. Instead, it has become more closely connected to all aspects of social relations. This shift reflects a broader understanding that politics is intertwined with society, culture, and human behavior. The aims and objectives of political science have also evolved, driven by influential ideas like the rise of the power theory and behavioralism. These developments have expanded the scope of political science, making it more dynamic and reflective of real-world social processes. This change highlights how our understanding of politics continues to grow and adapt in response to new ideas and societal shifts, reinforcing the importance of a comprehensive approach to studying politics today. So, as we look at the evolution of political science, it's clear that its aims and objectives have shifted significantly over time. This change has been driven largely by the rise of the power theory and behavioralism, which introduced new ways of understanding political phenomena. Political science is no longer just about the science of statecraft or the mechanics of government. Instead, it now encompasses all aspects of power relations and human behavior that have political implications within society. What this means is that politics is now seen as a process of conflict resolution. It's about reconciling rival views and competing interests to achieve outcomes that benefit everyone involved. Furthermore, the new understanding of political science involves examining the dynamics of power and struggle across various levels, whether it's local communities, regional entities, national governments, or international organizations. This broader perspective helps us grasp the complexities of modern politics and better understand how power operates and shapes societal interactions at every level. It's a more comprehensive approach that reflects the realities of today's political landscape. Thank you. As we approach the conclusion of our discussion, it's important to reflect on some of the challenges faced in experimentation when trying to arrive at valid conclusions. These challenges highlight why political science can be a complex field to study and interpret accurately. Over time, the scope of political science has expanded significantly. It has moved beyond just being the science of statecraft to encompass a much broader, more dynamic field. Today, it covers every aspect of the state and government, considering their past, present, and potential future developments. Factors like human rights, human development, social movements, and civil society have all contributed to this expanded scope. These developments have made political science more relevant and interconnected with other social disciplines. However, studying political phenomena is inherently complex because of the variation in people's nature and habits. Different environments where political processes happen also add to this complexity. Empirical studies, those based on careful observation and classification, are essential, but they face challenges like the lack of precise and standardized definitions for many terms and concepts. On the other hand, some political scientists view political science as an art rather than a strict science. They argue that there's a lot of scope for experimentation, such as observing how governments function as continuous experiments. Broad conclusions can be drawn based on these observations, and political theory has developed based on verifiable data, like voting patterns and election theories. There's a debate among scholars about whether political science should be classified as a science or an art. Those who see it as a science point out that modern political science has become more inclusive. Instead of focusing solely on the state and government, the field now studies the entire political system in relation to other systems, like economic, cultural, and legal systems, that all operate within the larger social environment. So, in summary, political science is a dynamic, evolving discipline that faces both opportunities and challenges, reflecting the complexity of political phenomena itself. Thank you.